Peace and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we got a lot to talk about. Let's talk about how California Senator, newly appointed Senator Laphonza Butler says she will not run in 2024. What's your take on that? What are your thoughts as she looks like she was possibly the perfect fit for the job? Well, it will open it up another conversation about who's to take the seat that late Senator Dianne Feinstein had left. We'll talk a little bit about that. Also, let's talk about how the U.S. ranks 118th in the world for racial inclusion. 118th country. Wow. We're going to share with you some of the details of this latest finding, and more importantly, what does that mean for the Biden-Harris administration, for American people, and for the culture. So we'll have that discussion. Later on, we're going to be checking in with Dr. Bridget for this week's Reclaim Your Wellness, and we're going to be checking in with a very special guest, a woman who has worked in the beauty industry for many, many years, who's finally telling her story about those harmful chemicals and relaxers that are affecting Black women across this country. So we'll have that conversation up next. So stay with us. It's all happening on today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. All right, folks, welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Happy Monday, folks. Happy Monday. Good to see you. Hope you enjoyed your weekend. Yes, yes, yes. Oh, man, what a day, what a day, what a day. Folks, we got a lot to talk about. So I just want to jump right in as we're streaming live on various platforms. First, check us out on our home platform of blackstarnetwork.com. You can go to our website today, download the app for free, follow us on social media, and more importantly, give something to help us in this great movement that we are a part of, this digital space called Black Star Network. So your support means everything to us. So make sure you do your due diligence and do us some good by supporting us here on Black Star Network. Also, we're streaming on Amazon News, on your Roku, on your Fire TV. Make sure you check us out there. We're also on Amazon Prime on your TV. So find us on Prime Video app under Live TV, the news, or you can find us at Amazon.com under Prime Video. Then go to Live TV, the news right there. We're also on Freevee, folks, and you can find us there right now under news. So go to Freevee's network and find us there. And finally, we're on Plex TV 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can also find us there on Plex TV. So big shout out to all of the spaces that we're in. Now, along with that, we're on social media. We're on Facebook under Roland Martin, as well as on the YouTube page under Roland Martin. And it's on our YouTube page where you'll find our illustrious, fantabulous culture crew that's right there. So make sure you join the conversation, join the chat as our culture crew are checking in from all across the country to be a part of the discussions about what we got lined up today. And a big shout out to my online culture crew. I see y'all checking in, Damon Blissett. Good to see you, dear brother. Hope you had a great weekend, Pastor, and hope you had a great service yesterday. Cindy D, thank you so much for checking in. My brother, Big Brother Willie Frazier, happy Monday to you too, Big Brother Willie. Monkey Confessions, thank you so much. There we go. Monkey, thank you so much for checking in. Ms. Deidre Hall, thank you, thank you, thank you. Conscious Thought, good afternoon, Culture. He said, good afternoon, Culture Crew. Good afternoon, Conscious Thought. Thank you so much for checking in. My sister Anastasia, peace and love to you too, Anastasia. Thank you so much. I need some peace and love in my life. Don't you? I need some of that. Thank you, Anastasia. Pretty Brown Mimi 726. Thank you. Peace and love to you too, Pretty Brown Mimi, and happy Monday as well. Kathleen Davis. Kathleen, happy Monday. Thank you so much for joining us. Kara's House. Ooh, greetings from Kara's House. Kara's House, thank you so much. Thank you for checking in. And so many of you are checking in. Cordell McMillian, thank you so much, Brother Cordell, for checking in. We appreciate you being a part of the crew today. Folks, let's talk a little bit about this first conversation that I got lined up for you around the newly appointed Senator Laphonza Butler. Y'all know who Miss Butler, Senator Butler is. This is the woman that was just given the seat. She was actually she was sworn into office by Kamala Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris, for the seat for the interim period that was left by the late Senator Dianne Feinstein, who passed away. And as a result of that, it left a little space for someone to fill the seat until the election of 2024. Now, everybody's been talking about, oh, Senator Laphonza Butler, she's going to be the one here. It's a Black woman. She's the first openly gay Black woman who is sitting in the Senate seat. This is a woman that has shown that, she has known her way around the Beltway, as some would call her a Democratic operative. Some would say she's a Democratic strategist. She's worked under Vice President Kamala Harris and as part of her job there in that space. She's also done some work with Annalise List. So she seems to be checking off all the boxes. And guess what? She has officially came out and said that she will not be running in the 2024 election to get the full term of the seat. So she's decided to fall back from that race, which is a hotly contested race, a race that a lot of folks across the country, not just here in the state of California, is really looking at. She said this in a statement. Take a look at what she said, folks, and then I want to get your take on this. She said, knowing you can win a campaign doesn't always mean you should run a campaign. Woo! That's some political wisdom there, folks. She said, I spent the past 16 days pursuing my clarity, what kind of life I want to have, what kind of service I want to offer, and what kind of voice I want to bring forward. After considering those questions, I've decided not to run for Senate in the upcoming election. I like that. You got to be honest with yourself. You got to be honest with yourself. I liked it. I know she brings a lot of support. I know she brings a lot of experience to the conversation. But the big thing that I think that we can learn from this, folks, keeping it real with yourself. I like it. I like it. Look, if you know you don't want this life, public service life, and I think we should probably, these are questions that every public servant should probably ask themselves, right? Like, if you know you're not going to be serious about this life, you're not going to be committed and dedicated and serious about it, then why keep doing it? Don't just do it for a paycheck. Don't just do it for notoriety. Don't just do it because whatever other perks that you believe you have. You got to be honest with yourself. I love it. What kind of life I want to have, what kind of service I want to offer, and what kind of voice I want to bring forward. These are three dynamic questions. So to Senator Butler, I tip my hat to you because you were honest. You were honest. I think, you could have probably ran and got the support that you need, got the monies you needed to raise for the fundraiser. But the simple fact is, at the end of the day, you have to wake up and say, do I want to do this job? And how many of us, folks, let's keep it real. How many of us do jobs just because, not necessarily that we want it, but because we feel like, it pays well. Oh, all right, this job will lead me to the job I really want to have and all of that stuff. I like it. I like it. All right, I got to take a quick pause. I want to come back and I want to get your take on this. What do you make of Senator Laphonza Butler's decision to not run in the 2024 election for the Senate seat for the state of California? And some of those big questions that she posed herself. What's your take on that? We're going to get to your comments when we come forward, so stay with us. We're just getting started here on The Culture, so stay with me. It's The Culture right here on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punching!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. All right, but the first conversation that we're kicking off today is about Senator Laphonza Butler, the newly appointed senator. She was just sworn in on October the 3rd, folks. And 16 days later, in the midst of her service, her public service, she has officially announced that she will not be running in the 2024 Senate election that is captivating California and the rest of the country. She said in a statement, knowing you could win a campaign doesn't always mean you should run a campaign. I know this will be a surprise to many because traditionally we don't see those who have power let it go. It may not be the decision people expected, but it's the right one for me. Woo! Can we get a little hand clap or something, y'all? Because I need something. I need a little something. Can we get a little hand clap, a little snappy finger, something? Something. Hand clap. There we go. All right, there we go. But I appreciate the simple fact that she is honest with herself. And I think that that's the big part of this, right? Like understanding the work. Like she's 16 days in her work. She's probably been exposed to some things already. And she's probably asking, like, do I really want to do this for the next, couple of years? Do I want to go through this process of trying to not just talk to the people, not serving the people? Matter of fact, I bet you for most political, and this is just my speculation. This is nothing backed by evidence, but I bet you, folks, that the part of actually serving people, your constituents, is probably the least. Is not the hardest part of the job. It's probably dealing with the politics of everything else, your role and the lobbyists and all of them other folks and dealing with your colleagues and stuff. That's probably the headache of the job. You're probably so happy to go back to your constituents and listen to their little small things that we put on. Like, this, what about trash? What about this? What about that? School, not dealing with the Washington politics. So that's possibly part of a reason, but I do agree with her that, you got to ask some very hard questions And then you got to ask yourself, is this really what I want to do? All right, let me get your take on this, Drew. As we talk about this, do you think that she made the right decision? What do you think of her decision making? Because it is a very, very crowded field of people that is going to be running for Senate for that seat come next year. That already includes Democratic U.S. Representative Barbara Lee of Oakland. Y'all know Representative Barbara Lee. Katie Porter of Irvine and Adam B. Schiff of Burbank. There's also a former Los Angeles Dodgers star, Mr. Steve Garvey, who is a Republican, saying that he will run as well. But it is Mr. Schiff and Ms. Porter that are leading in the polls. According to the reports, they have raised the most money in the race with tens of millions of dollars between them to spend in the coming months. In California, the primary system is set up. The two candidates who receive the most votes in the March primary, regardless of political party, will compete in a November runoff. So that's what they're saying. Now, there was this political science professor out of Cal State Long Beach, Matt Laphonza. He said that if Senator Butler would have moved on in getting ready for the race, she would have faced an uphill battle. According to him, he said that he has researched appointed senators across the U.S. and found that appointees who later run for their seats almost always lose. He said, if you haven't won an election before, it's very hard. That's no knock on her skills personally. It speaks to the difficulty of being a newcomer and beating experienced politicians. All right, folks, what's your take on this as we talk a little bit about this? What do you think? Do you think this is a good idea for Senator Butler? Did she make the right decision? I think she did. I would rather have someone bow out gracefully instead of holding on to power when they really don't want to be there. All right, let me hear from what y'all got to say. Here it is. Let's start with Sharon Brooks. Good afternoon, Sharon. You said, but what about those of us who we really want to see Representative Barbara Lee, who has been doing the work and has a clear plan and a record to stand on? Just a thought. Well, Barbara Lee is going to move forward. We know she's running, but she may not be getting that type of money now. She may not be getting that type of money. According to that report, it's Adam Schiff and Katie Porter that's bringing in the dollars. So Ms. Lee may have to try to figure this thing out, because that money means you have access to the airwaves. That money means you want to have access to more resources to build up your campaign. And so it's going to be very interesting, I think, Sharon, to see how she's going to kind of navigate through that. All right, but I appreciate you, Sharon. Thank you so much. Let me see who else is here. Cindy, you said it's not surprising she doesn't have the same backing as Adam Schiff and Katie Porter. Yeah. She might have think that she did because she's gotten that connection with the vice president. She's got the connection with the California governor, who probably, most likely, he's not going to intervene because that'll be a major conflict of interest. But she knows a lot of people. But I'm going back to what that political science professor said. It's one thing to be in the seat. It's another thing you got to run for the seat. Those are two different skill sets. Those are two different dynamics that play there. So I definitely think that she would have to raise a lot of money in a very short period of time if she was talking about really winning against Adam Schiff and Katie Porter, at least in that space. Nicole, you said Senator Butler is not obligated to run for the U.S. Senate seat in 2024. Perhaps she is holding the seat for another Black candidate to run in 2024. We have to understand seasons are temporary. Ain't that the truth? Well, if she holds the seat, say for Barbara Lee, again, you got to figure out, okay, is Barbara Lee going to take everything forward, right? But to that point of we have to understand seasons are temporary, absolutely. Absolutely. I just love the fact that she was honest. I love the fact that she was honest with herself. She asked herself some very important, some very needed questions, like, do I really want to do this job? And I wish more political folks would ask themselves the question, because you already could tell if somebody's just there for they actually want to serve for the public good, or if they just there to pick up the check and get the perks. So you can tell. Nicole, thank you so much, sis. Willie Frazier, my big brother, you said, well, Newsom said he didn't want to put someone on that was going to run. That would be putting his finger on the scale three powerhouses are running for that seat. It's going to be wild. Yeah, that's a great point. That is a great point. You don't want to bring somebody into it. They probably talked about that beforehand. And it's like, the likelihood of me actually running for the seat is very low. So he's like, perfect. Let's put you in the seat for right now. You know me, I know you. We can make this thing work and then get some stuff done. Now, the seat, she gets out of the seats. I'm speaking of Senator Laphonza Butler. She ends that period on January of 2025. So that could have been a conversation, Big Brother Willie, that they could have had before this whole situation kind of went down. This whole process went down. Kathleen, you said you could always send an email and ask her to consider the people, let her know that you have her back, not just the front. Now, that's true. Now, are you talking about, who are you speaking of? I want to know, Kathleen. Are you talking about Laphonza Butler? Are you talking about Barbara Lee? Who are you talking about? I want to make sure I have the correct clarity. Carolyn, thank you so much for checking in. You said, I'm happy she did this. Speaking of Laphonza Butler, Senator Butler, you said, I have great respect for all three candidates who have definitely paid their dues. Yep, absolutely, absolutely. Tiana, thank you for checking in. You said, I think she made the right decision. She would have to uproot her family and move back to California. Absolutely, yeah. Y'all remember she actually has to relocate and get sign the paperwork for her to run for the state because she's out of Washington, and so she would come to California and get all of that done. And so it's a whole process. But you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. I got to take another quick pause. When we come forward, let's continue to talk a little bit about this. Also, folks, on the agenda for this first half of the show, let's talk about how the U.S. is ranking 118th in the world for racial inclusion. How come nobody's putting this on the agenda, folks? I'm going to share with you the details of this latest study and get your take on that as well. So stay with us. The conversation continues on the other side, right here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible.
Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. We've just been chatting a little bit about Senator Laphonza Butler out of the state of California, the newly appointed senator who took the seat of the late Dianne Feinstein, Senator Dianne Feinstein. Senator Butler was sworn in on October 3rd. 16 days later, she has officially decided, or last week, that she would not run in the 2024 Senate election. That's coming up, and that field is getting crowded with more and more Democrats and a couple of Republicans. But Senator Butler says she's not moving forward with this. She's pretty much going to do this fill-in term period and then be done with it. She'll be ending her service January of 2025. And she made a point. She asked some pivotal questions to herself. And more importantly, she wanted to be honest with where she was in this whole process. Now, very quickly, Real Brooklyn, you checked in, my brother. Good to see you, sir. You said, what kind of life I want to have, what kind of service I want to offer, and what kind of voice I want to bring forward. The first concern is usually the deciding factor. She knows it's guerrilla warfare. This is what Senator Butler said in her statement. And Real Brooklyn, you're bringing this up, saying that the first concern is usually the deciding factor. She knows it's guerrilla warfare. Absolutely. Absolutely. And then, Real Brooklyn, you bring up an excellent point too, bro. You said she is bowing out because of her statement, quote, what kind of life I want to have. That pretty much says she doesn't want the heat. Politics today is a take no prisoner mentality. I would agree. You got to ask yourself, like, look, anybody who wants to get into this political thing, this political space, you got to have thick skin. You got to be ready to go to war. Guerrilla warfare, is my brother Real Brooklyn saying. Guerrilla warfare, you have to. So I wanted to just bring that point up, and I think it's interesting that we are, maybe Senator Butler's view on things will spread to her colleagues right now to see, you know what, do I really want to do this? Because it's nothing like having somebody in a position of power and influence who really don't want to be there, who's really not there for the essence of the role, which is to serve the people and serve the general public in the interest of the people. You just there to pick a paycheck, collect a paycheck, or you just there to just because you get some points, you get some perks, some notoriety. It's worse. It's terrible. So great comment there, Real Brooklyn. I appreciate you for pointing that out. All right, let's switch gears a little bit on this, folks. Let's talk a little bit about this this new survey. It's not really a survey. It's what they call an inclusiveness index. Now, as we talk about all the things that are happening with Senator Butler and everything, but let's look at where is the U.S. on when it comes to racial inclusion. And Senator Butler is probably one prime example of how far this country has yet to go and how much work is left to be done. This is because, according to the Othering and Belonging Institute at the University of California at Berkeley, every year they do this inclusiveness index. And this inclusiveness index is basically a metric, a number of metrics that's used to determine whether certain countries are, how far or how progressive these countries are in key areas, right? So let me just share this from the report, based on the report from NBC News. Take a look at this, folks. The Othering, this is the United States ranked, we can go back to that, please, Lee. The United States ranked 118th in the world for racial inclusion, according to the annual tally. 118th in the world, crew. 118th in the world. Even after the George Floyd summer of protests, even after all of this stuff that we've been talking about, 118th in the world for racial inclusion. All right, let's go to the quote now, please. Thank you. The Othering and Belonging Institute at the University of California, Berkeley, they tally every year an inclusiveness index after holistically analyzing the degree of inclusion and the protections for marginalized groups across a range of social categories such as gender, race, religion, sexual orientation, and disability. The US usually gets high rankings for general LGBTQ, except 16th place, and religion, 27th place, but ranks lower when it comes to race, 118th place, 70th, and gender, 118th place, disabilities at 70th, and gender is at 108th place. The US's inclusiveness ranking also suffered from a lack of women in elected office. For example, only 25 out of 100 US senators today are women. In addition, researchers also considered violent attacks against particular groups, income inequality, and how welcoming a country is to immigrants, where we have all scored low. According to the assistant director and director of research for this The United States has a lot of economic inequality between social groups that also pulls down the ranking compared to the more egalitarian Scandinavian countries. Wow. So you mean to tell me that we rank lower than other countries that are deemed and are seen as not being quite as progressive? All right, here's the thing very quickly, then I want to get your take. This speaks volumes about where we are with our view of America. I know many of you may have heard the term American exceptionalism, the idea that we are exceptional just because of our technology, our military might, just because of our political system of governance, just because of the people. Like, there is this thing that we kind of pump ourselves up around because we're like, oh, we're America. We are the world's leader. We dictate the agenda, that type of thing. But do you know that there are countries, whether it's Scandinavian countries, Nordic countries like Finland, Sweden, Switzerland, these countries are way more progressive than America in key areas, from everything from healthcare to treatment of women and women's rights policies, even race. Y'all can take a look at the data. It will show you that there are many places in this country that are moving further ahead, far beyond where America is. So I'm not necessarily surprised, but to be 118th for racial inclusion when there are so many, there are incidents of racism every single day in this country. And we have not really moved the needle to becoming a more inclusive society, a more inclusive country. Folks, I got to take a quick pause, but what's your take on this? As we look at this, are you surprised by this? More importantly, 118th, this speaks volumes. Why we need to include this little metric into the conversation, right? Because the sentiment around race and the conversations around race in this country seems to be devoid of this very real space that we find ourselves in. Look, I got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let me get your take on this, crew. And let's continue to talk about how the U.S. is 118th when it comes to racial inclusion. More importantly, what does that mean for the culture? So stay with us. The conversation continues on the other side right here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. We're talking about this new, I would say a new report that has come out from the Othering and Belonging Institute at the University of California at Berkeley that shows that the United States continue to underperform on an annual list that ranks inclusivity as experienced by marginalized groups and countries across the globe. And guess what, folks? America ranks number 118th when it comes to racial inclusion in this country. It also ranks terrible when it comes to having women in leadership roles within our government. So that's a problem. So here you got two major issues at play here. I was once told that a nation can rise no higher than its woman. Women are at the bottom. Now I'm speaking of women's rights, reproductive rights, the right of women to speak, the whole women's rights movement, right? So we see women are suffering. Then you have this ongoing conversation about race in this country that we have truly yet to get to the core of, or truly yet to address. And I love how so many of you are checking in on this. And I think it was you, Tiana. You said, oh, this is to you, Deidre. Deidre, you made that point. I think it was Deidre or Tiana. Y'all were both chatting. But you said the only way we can do better is America has to make amends for her past. We have yet to do that. We have truly yet to do that. In spite of all the things that are happening in this country every day around racial issues, racism, racial policies, exclusivity, inclusivity. I mean, in spite of all of that, we're still not having the type of movement. We're not pushing the needle far enough. So you have those two components, race and women. These are the components that will build, if they're handled well, if they are addressed, if they are made amends with, can move this country along. Now, another part of this same report, it said that America has an incarceration problem. We incarcerate more people in this country than any other country in the globe. And the assistant director and the director of this research, he made the point saying that this is constantly dragging America down in terms of on the world stage of being this progressive place, that we lock everybody up. We love locking people up. We love the idea of quote unquote law enforcement to the detriment of the people that the law enforcement is supposed to serve and protect. So this country still got some very, very serious work to do. And I hope that none of us get into this space as if this is some, you know, we act like, oh, it doesn't bother us, it doesn't matter, you know, or things are getting better. And unfortunately, in some ways, it's not. Yes, we have made some great strides, and I don't want to be the messenger of bad news here. We have certainly made some strides, but the strides sometimes will be so incremental that our children's children won't be able to benefit from them. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's so slow, it's so small, when all it takes is political will to put certain legislation together. All it takes is judicial will to say, you know what, we're going to stop locking up black men and black boys by the boatload, right? All it takes is a different will. And this is what I'm convinced about, and y'all can tell me if I'm wrong with this, folks. But sometimes I just think like America just don't want to do right. It's not like she can't do right. It's not like the leadership here in this country needs additional resources. It's like when stuff goes wrong in this country and there's an opportunity to do right, the leadership chooses, we're not going to do right. No, we're not going to do right by the people, instead of addressing it. And guess what? Guess who really suffers at the brunt of this, folks? It's not just black people. It's every single person in this country who suffer when the leadership of this country does not have the will to do right by the people. All right, let me do this. Let's do this. Cindy, you said Hillary Clinton could have broken the glass ceiling for women. Trump used sexism against her. He stalked her at the debate. Women took a step back there as well. Yep, that's true. Okay. Pastor Damon, you said 100 Farajii. They don't want to repent. Come on, Pastor. You know, but Pastor, you got to, you know, the process of repenting requires somebody to recognize the wrong. It's like atonement, right? You got to atone for your sins. But in order for you to atone for your sins, you got to even recognize, hey, you know what? I violated this group of people. I violated this person. And then not only just to recognize it, to be so in contrition about it, to be in a state of contrition, you be like, you know what? I think they deserve to be apologized to because they are humans themselves. They are my people as well. You see what I'm saying? You got to have a certain level of consciousness to even be in that space. It's like an individual, right? It takes a lot of guts and courage to admit that you're wrong, right? Some of us have a hard time to admit that we're wrong about things. And more importantly, it takes even more guts and encouragement to say, not only am I wrong, I apologize for the wrong that I've caused you, the violations that I've made against you. And then let's include this part, right, Pastor Damon? The fact that you can name what you did wrong to the other person so they can understand that you understand what the violation is. Y'all feel me on that? Y'all feel me? Like if you can say, hey, I'm sorry for doing A, B, and C, which I know caused you to feel this way and feel that way. Now the person is assured that you understand their pain. Empathy kicks in. Compassion kicks in. Understanding kicks in. Then the bridge can start to be built again between the two of the individual. Man, we're not in that place. We're not in that place. Pastor, you said sincerity. Absolutely. Sincerity. Real Brooklyn, you said inclusiveness index will always be low in a country that predominantly works on capitalism. Inequality is endemic to capitalism, point blank. There it is. Lana, you said, I didn't even know it's 118 countries in this world. That's sad for me and America's rank. Yeah, absolutely. Tiana, you said, I'm not surprised about the U.S. ranking 118th in racial inclusion. We are still fighting a civil war. Right. Cindy, you said America's never been on the forefront of racial inclusion and equity. Let's not kid ourselves. It's never been equal. But we can achieve and accomplish if we have drive and determination. And let me add to that, Cindy, because I think you're making an excellent point. If we have the will, if we really give a damn, if America really gives a damn, then it will improve. Guess what? Some of the leadership in this country don't give a damn. And guess what? We're going to continue to be ranking high. Yes, we could be high in technology. We could be high in military might. But none of that matters if the people don't feel heard. You are creating an environment where civil war could happen again. Because if a person feels like they are being wrong and then no one's there to speak to that wrong, then guess what's going to happen, folks? They're going to take that pain and that hurt and they're going to express it in a different, ugly, destructive way because they feel like that's the only way they can be seen. That's the only way they can be heard. That's the only way that this country will feel their presence. All right, very quickly, let me just share this with you, y'all. Because Lana, I see that, and I want to bring this up later on in this week. We want to have some different conversations about this. But Lana, you talked about, speaking of racial inclusion, this conversation about, the Nation of Islam and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has moved forward in filing a lawsuit against the Anti-Defamation League for its mischaracterization of the minister. And there is a growing sentiment, and this is what we're going to talk about later on. So crew, don't jump into the conversation just yet. But there is a growing anti-Israel sentiment in this country that's happening now. I was reading over the weekend how Palestinians, or more Arab Democrats in the state of Michigan are not happy with President Biden, and they're encouraging, these are people that work within the Democratic parties. I'm talking about political officials and other folks within the Democratic Party are now saying we're not going to support Biden because of his stance on the Israel-Hamas conflict, right? Then we're going to talk about this later on this week. I saw this piece where Jewish people are now looking to defend themselves because they feel like they are being under attack in this country. So they're going to gun stores. They're getting self-defense classes. All of these things are happening as a result of that conflict. What is going on? The country is moving in a different direction when it comes to, and I'm saying the government may be unequivocal in support of Israel, but now we're starting to see the people are pushing back. So there's a lot in that, Lana, and I think that we should do our part to be very intelligent and very balanced, and more importantly, to be very factual about how this will play out. Because, right, guess what, folks? Black America is right still in the dead center of that storm of the growing controversy, because now Black folks are saying, look, our struggle with the Palestinian struggle, it looks kind of similar because of the way that situation is playing out. So we will do our best to try to be a part of those conversations, and more importantly, try to do our best to try to get through all of that stuff. So thank you for bringing that up, Lana. And of course, I'm hearing you, I'm seeing you, and I understand, and we definitely need to take a conversation about it. Look, we got to take another quick pause. When we come forward, let's shift gears. Let's talk about our health and wellness. Let's connect with our sister, Dr. Bridget, MD, for this week's You Reclaim Your Wellness. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. It is Monday, folks, and you know every Monday we check in on our health and wellness, and we check in with our sister, Dr. Bridget, MD, and let's go for another installment of this week's Reclaim Your Wellness with Dr. Bridget. Dr. Bridget.
Hi, how are you today, Farajii?
I'm good, and how are you today?
Good. I'm in Corpus Christi, Texas today. So I've traveled much farther south, and we're actually doing book signings for the Courage in Cannabis book series. I'm at Joint Ventures behind me, which is a health and wellness center. And just really sharing that it's all about empowerment and taking care of your own health.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, speaking of health and wellness, one of the big stories that we are going to be talking about is the story around harmful chemicals in Black hair products, but specifically that are targeted to Black women. I've been seeing a lot more. I remember a few weeks ago, you talked about this, right? You kind of went and kind of laid down the groundwork for this, but now it has like exploded into a different conversation when lawsuits have been filed. There's I know Representative Ayanna Pressley is looking to actually do some investigations into these companies. This has taken on a whole different life of its own. And I even saw over the weekend how one black woman and a number of black women have said as a result of their usage of these products, they're not even able to have children.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, it's really exploded. So I think we first talked about this in early March. And as far as there's these hair relaxers and a number of companies that are part of a large class action lawsuit. The reason this is really being brought up again is for a couple reasons, but one being that just in the last month, there have been 4,000 new plaintiffs in this lawsuit. And so when you think about the number of particularly Black women that are being affected by this, that the real treatment is hysterectomy, and so will not have the ability to have children. And the fact that this has been going on and nothing's been done about it is really, really hitting home. And we need to talk about it. The second part of this is that I had an incredible conversation with an executive at a company that we won't name that really made me think about this even more deeply, because the fact of the matter is, if it's a localized cancer, survival rate's about 80-95%, depending on how early it's caught. But if it spreads out from your uterus itself, we're talking about maybe a 17% survival rate. And the fact of the matter is, the only way you would actually know that you have this problem is that you have a little bit of a change in your menstrual cycle. I don't know. I can't tell you women I talk to that have said, oh yeah, I have heavy bleeding, but it's fine. Oh yeah, I bleed between my periods. It's fine. Oh, I went through menopause. I haven't bled in, a year, maybe two, but I'm bleeding again. It's no big deal. These are the women that we're talking about, and we really need to hit home not only about how it affects their health, but why are we being given these chemicals in the first place?
And that's the big question that I have. And here's another big question, because I know you have a very special guest to help tie this all in. Did these companies know?
Right. And I think that's what we're looking at. I think that's what needs to be explained. And that's why, we're having such a large investigation around this, because the fact of the matter is what we've learned, and it's embarrassing to even admit, sometimes we do know things and we simply don't care because of the profit that it brings. And when you don't value the person that's actually buying your product, that's going to happen even more. And I think that that is what's happening in this situation.
Absolutely. So who's the very special guest you got joining us today, Greg?
Absolutely. So I have Faye Harris joining us today, who has worked for one of these companies and actually was involved in the process of creating some of these relaxers. So can bring her up, and I would like to really learn about her experience and share it with our audience.
Absolutely. Ms. Faye Harris, welcome to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. How are you today, sis?
Doing really well. Thank you again for having me. It's a great conversation.
Absolutely. Talk to us about you. Now, you've been working in the beauty industry. You're a beauty industry veteran. You've worked in both on the side of research and development, like I would say the R&D side of things. What have you seen there, Faye? What are, now that this conversation has exploded onto the national scene? I feel like this was probably one of those best kept secrets within the industry for a very long time. But what has happened? What are you seeing now?
Yes, well, I've been in the industry for a while, and I was really in a marketing capacity. So I was the marketing liaison to product development. The way that a lot of very large companies work is there's a marketing team that keeps in contact with the consumer to really understand what, in this case, she, in many cases, is looking for, what's important to her, and translate that back to actual chemists who have the technical knowledge to develop products to bring that to life. So I have had experience on the chemical platforms, relaxer in particular. And I do know that, just taking a step back, your previous segment about how the US has ranked in terms of inclusivity definitely plays into this conversation, because hair relaxers as a product, at even the textured hair category now that has exploded, really started off as a cottage industry. And I'm sure many of you and viewers are familiar with that scene in Malcolm X when he did the relaxer. And back in the day, you know, it was a direct correlation to how much the product burned, how straight your hair was going to get, right? So I really do want to start there because this is a very potentially huge issue. As you know, within the Black culture, Black women in particular, you know, particularly around, you know, the 80s, I would say 70s, the late 90s, it was just part of the culture to get a relaxer at a very early age, right? Usually before that age of menstruation, which actually is also pertinent to the conversation, and then to get your touch ups very frequently. And what happened was oftentimes these products were just made, you know, somebody's basement, someone's kitchen. That's how the whole textured hair category started. It's a very cottage, kitchen based industry where we as Black people had hair needs that were not even acknowledged by mainstream. So we made our own solutions to make that work. Then you get large companies that realize the profit opportunity in the market and come into the market, and in a lot of ways carried the practices forward. Now, you also posed a great question. Do companies really know? And I do believe, again, you know, being sensitive to both sides of the issue in a way, because when you're mass producing products, and I'm talking about, you know, producing at an average on 25, 50,000 units in a run, there's a lot of chemicals that need to go into the process to make the product shelf stable, to ensure that, you know, germs, to make sure that just the safety and efficacy of the product isn't compromised while it sits on the shelf. And a lot of the concerns that we're having around beauty ingredients really stem from that. But, you know, there's that on one hand, what companies have to do to really make sure that they're producing a product at scale that provides profit, and balancing that with performance and safety and really the needs of the consumer. Now, as you just mentioned, you know, with this country being very capitalistic and profit driven, oftentimes what wins is the need to get the product out there and have it sell. You know, so yes, Dr. Bridget and I connected because I do know firsthand that unfortunately, you know, it made me feel a way at one point in my career to potentially be part of something that wasn't healthy for Black women. And certainly even for myself, I shared my personal story that in developing a relaxer system, I actually decided to go natural because I was working so closely with chemists, and I really saw what happened to the integrity of a hair strand based on this chemical process. The whole idea of a chemical treatment is that it permanently alters the bonds that are in your hair, that are in a hair strand. And, you know, type 3, type 4, basically anyone with a curl pattern, they're bonds that force that pattern to happen. And they're activated by water. We all know this. And I'm not a chemist, so I don't want to get too ahead of myself. But in that process of removing those bonds, it literally creates holes in the hair strand. And so as I went through the process and really got familiar with the technology, I realized, well, this is why my hair is not growing, why I'm constantly fighting with breakage. And then if you add color on top of that, as you know, is really popular for the look and the aesthetics of things, it just really makes it very challenging to keep healthy hair. And not to say that it can't happen, because there's a lot of women out there who do it. It really does depend on your hair texture and type, as well as the skill of the stylist that's performing the service. And I think that, in fact, I know, as I've been doing my own research about how this case is shaping up, they're in the discovery phase where they're trying to really ascertain how deeply companies kind of knew that the product was in essence harmful. If you look on any package right now, it's full of cautions and warnings. There are a lot of regulations, guardrails. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, we got to take a quick pause because you're dropping some jewels. So I want people to let it marinate on their head. What's all that you're saying?
Literally.
What you say, Doc?
Really? Marinate on their head? Really?
Yes, don't let it sit on your head.
It just came out. But we want to let them just process. I can't even say process. They want to just let them think about everything that you just said, Doc, and Faye. And let's take a quick pause. Let's when we come forward, let's have some more of share with the next point you wanted to make, and get some comments from our online culture crew. So, folks, we're talking about the major lawsuits. We're talking about the big conversation around chemical relaxers and their impact on Black women and health of women across the beauty industry. Folks, I want to get your take on this as we talk to a beauty industry veteran and insider to get her take and her understanding, and more importantly, how do we recover from this big conversation? A lot to talk about, so stay with us. It's happening here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in Black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible.
Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is roland@rolandsmartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. This is our Reclaim Your Wellness segment, where we always check in with our resident health expert, Dr. Bridget, MD. And today we're talking about those hair straighteners, hair relaxers. And Doc, our very special guest, Ms. Faye Harris, who is an beauty industry veteran. She's also the owner, the founder of Out of Sight Enterprises, which is provides a number of services and products for the next generation lifestyle brand. They actually, for Ms. Harris, your flagship product is Out of Sight Hair 3-in-1 Scalp Serum, which is a more natural based, much more healthier hair regimen system that you and your team has put together. So we're having this conversation at a very, very critical time, Doc. And Dr. Bridget, as I'm listening to what Faye said, talking about the accountability of these companies,
right?
As a physician, and as one who, it serves as a watchdog for a lot of this. It seems like, and I'm not saying Faye is doing this. This is not about her personally, but I can imagine when your major company, whether you're talking about, I don't know, any of those major companies saying, oh, we didn't know this came years later. At the time when we started this product line, this wasn't the case. They could kind of worm themselves out of this level of accountability. How do you, can you speak to that as a doctor and as one who works with Black women?
So my concern is that, hair relaxers contain endocrine disruptors, right? And so these endocrine disruptors that are in these products then lead to basically disrupting or causing issue with our hormone levels that leads to this uterine cancer, right? So how knowledgeable we are or not, and keep in mind that the consumer will drive demand. But when I look at why people get the cancer, meaning if you've had more than 4 weeks in a year, the likelihood of you getting cancer grows exponentially. We have marketed this to children, and we know that, as Faye was saying, that you really shouldn't have one before the age of 12. So we have like kitty relaxers and all these different things. And we also market it so that people are doing it every 4 to 6 weeks. And so then there's a level of responsibility that's needed in this area, right? Because whether you know every aspect of what's going on in the chemicals of this product or not, we have been taught to start early, particularly as Faye was saying, in the late 70s and 80s and going into the 90s, we were taught to start early and we were taught to do frequently. And it's not good. It's not good for any of us. And we're not taught to protect ourselves with more frequent medical exams to make sure that this isn't an issue.
That's very true. So let me ask you this, Doc, and Faye, I want to get your take on this first. The U.S. FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, they has put out there that they're considering a ban on these products, on these hair straightening chemicals that may have been used by Black women, and that shows now, based on the research, it causes major problems like uterine cancer. But they're looking at putting a ban on this. Does this do anything? Does this shake the industry up from your vantage point, or is it like that comes along with the job?
Well, to Dr. Bridget's point, what it does, I believe, is it gives the industry time to respond. There are technologies that are out there that can really lengthen the time of temporary straightening, like through heat methods. But again, the chemical altering process, and again, not being a chemist, I can't really speak to it intimately, but, they would need time to develop truly safe technology. And that's where I was going. Even right now, and if you take hair relaxers off the table and just think about color treatments and other chemical hair treatments, there are all types of regulations and warnings and cautions, and you're supposed to be off scalp. And there's a lot of things that the companies do to protect themselves. And they will counter that, well, it's stylist misuse. It's not supposed to touch the scalp. It's really not supposed to, touch the skin to get in the bloodstream. There's a lot of gray area there from a legality regulation standpoint. So I look at that FDA ban in two ways. One, it gives the industry a chance to respond. But like you said, it really begs the question about why, women are using these treatments. And, I guess it's great news from a health perspective, absolutely. And absolutely from a societal, cultural perspective, that now natural hair is really embraced. Relaxer usage significantly declines, significantly. Yeah. Most women don't use relaxer. So by the time the ban actually takes place, companies would have stepped in with their, bridge the gap solutions for that revenue.
But here's the thing on that though, Faye, very quickly, and I know we got to take another quick pause, but the thing is that even though relaxers may have declined, and some companies may say, okay, we're going to scale back. How can we trust those companies, given if they were a huge part of this part of the process? It's one thing to take it off the products off the shelf, but it's another thing to really build that trust, whatever the company is, right? And And guess what? We're in a time, and I know it as you're a marketing person, you get a famous Black influencer, put their face out there, and it's like the stamp of approval for Black America. And I'm just saying, and I'm just throwing something like, if you get, I don't know, Issa Rae. People love Issa Rae. They love what she stands for. She's pro-Black. She's for the culture. And if these companies said, hey, Issa, we'll pay you, and I'm not saying she would do this. I'm just making a point that if somebody of her caliber would come in and say, okay, I'm going to be your spokesperson for this newly redefined all-natural hair care product system from the same company that made hair straighteners that cause problems. That could be very hard for people, for Black women to keep that in. Oh, this is the same company that did this to us before.
Well, people's memory can be selective, particularly if the product
and short and small.
I mean, and that's a whole nother conversation. But you're right. Again, it takes that type of oversight, and it takes the investment in really doing the research and doing the work. I really do honestly believe that a lot of the research to even get to this point started way late versus when relaxers first hit the market. So, and you could argue that that's because, we're not valued as consumers, but was the need really there because the product was working and people were buying, So even if you put a celebrity in front of it, that could, especially a celebrity like Issa Rae that we know roots for everybody Black, that could potentially help change the game. And a lot of these conglomerates have a lot of small Black owned businesses, purchase a lot of small Black owned businesses that consumers don't know are owned by these white run companies. So that's what I find very refreshing now. There's so many Black owned, Black run companies that are really operating at least with a respect for the consumer.
But the other thing is, of course, that in this culture of capitalism, and we're going to take a quick pause, but in this culture of capitalism, if you're a small Black hair care company and you have a larger rich white company here saying, look, we'll put your products in Target, we'll put your products in Walmart, we'll make sure your products. And just like my sister Sharon Brooks said, that she said, she made this point, they already buying up Black good products. Example, Carol's daughter.
Yes,
exactly. I feel like we've already believed in us, supporting us, because look at some of the companies that are of concern. They might not have been, we're not aware that whether they're Black owned or not, but when you look at these brands, when you looked at Dark and Lovely, when you looked at, Motion Soft and Beautiful, in my head, I'm thinking, wow, I'm looking at this product. This must be a product company that is making something safe for me, because you see the box, you see people that look like you on the box, that from all that you can tell, it is a Black-owned company, and you buy into that. Now, the only thing that you're saying, Farajii, is that we're stepping it up and we're getting a celebrity involved, but I already bought into it the first time because I saw someone that looked like me on the box.
But and I mean, that's the problem. I got to take another quick pause, sisters. When I come forward, let's continue the conversation. Plus, we got some comments from our crew. So, crew, we're going to post your comments as well. And let's continue to talk about this. How do we handle this latest situation where some people say is a health assault on Black women? Stay with us. The conversation continues right here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay Black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible.
Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad, joined by two dynamic and powerful Black women as we talk about this latest development and this whole situation around hair straighteners. I'm joined by my sister, Dr. Bridget, MD, as we are having our Reclaim Your Wellness segment now. And we're joined by our very special guest, Ms. B. Faye Harris, who is a beauty industry veteran. She's a marketer, and she is also the founder of Out of Sight. Let me make sure I get this right, Faye. I don't want to mess this up here. You're also the founder for Out of. Let me make sure, because there it is. Out of Sight Enterprises, as you're building a foundation for next generation lifestyle brands, and more importantly, making sure that you're connecting Black women and Black consumers to natural-based products and services. So you're doing your job there. Doc, let me just get this take on this, because this is a long stemming situation. Here's one of our crew members had brought this up, saying that, white women do the same thing. They perm their hair, they use relaxers or some other type of hair products. Do we see the same type of furor, the same type of urgency to change coming from white women? How does this affect white women in this regard?
So keep in mind that when we say perm in the Black community, perm and relaxers are not the same, okay? And so, and I'm not saying that there are not other ethnic groups that use relaxers to some extent, but a perm that causes a curl and a relaxer that takes the curl out are not the same product, okay? And even other ethnic groups that do use relaxers typically are not using them as frequently as Black women do. So that's a big story. Yes, hair color, and there are other products that do cause issues, but none of them cause the same amount as a hair relaxer alone. And so keep in mind that when we're talking about just uterine cancer in itself, that it affects, without ever having a relaxer at all, it affects about 1.6% of 1.6% of women that have never had a relaxer. By the age of 70, they would end up getting uterine cancer. If you have frequent users of hair relaxers, you go from 1.6% to 4%. Keep in mind that might sound small to you in numbers, but in reality, that's a humongous gap. And so in the case, it needs to be taken seriously.
Absolutely. Faye Cordell McMillian, one of our culture crew members, he said, I know there must be safe products that will help straighten your hair without putting bumps or burning your hair. Is that the case? Why both of y'all? Y'all both looked up in the air like, ain't no safe product to do that.
Well, because it depends. And so, Dr. Bridget, you're so spot on. What we're talking about is the permanent altering of your hair strand. So that's why for me, that's why I made the face, because yes, there are safe methods. Heat, can temporarily straighten your hair. Silk press, hot comb. We've seen that in our community since forever. That's a safe way, and even safe. I kind of screwed up my face because you could say what's safe. Again, breakage, integrity of the hair strand. But from absolutely an endocrine disrupting standpoint, I would say heat, direct or indirect, is your best bet to get that look. When you talk about chemically altering the hair strand, I think, that definitely opens up a whole different world.
Wow. Carolyn, okay, go. Sorry, Doc.
We look at keratin, and I was definitely told that keratin treatments are so much safer, but keratin treatments actually are chemically altering, and they have some of those same chemicals, right? So I think we need to have more transparency in this area so we understand what are our options, and because we all don't want the same thing. Okay. But if we are educated enough to know what our choices are, we can make a choice that's right for ourselves and our families.
That's real. That's real. Carolyn Harrison, you checked in. Thank you so much, Carolyn. You said, how far back does the hair relaxer suit go? What happens if you don't remember the brand?
I at this point, my understanding is if you have had any health conditions that are documented as far as excessive bleeding, uterine cancer, any issues at all, you should contact a class action lawsuit attorney. And so I was going to provide some names and numbers. So to be honest, there's so many right now. You have to go with what you're most comfortable with. But if you put in class action suit hair relaxer, you will see a number of attorneys and offices that will pop up. When you do that, they will want to talk to you, and they will be able to give you the information needed, because the fact of the matter is it does take time for uterine cancer to develop. If you have used a relaxer, if you used it frequently, and you have health conditions, talk to your attorney, but also talk to your doctor. Make sure that you are taking care of yourself.
Absolutely. So you get an attorney and a doctor. Is that that's your prescription for the day, Doc?
Absolutely. I think that's light.
You think that's light? Let's talk a little bit about, let me get another question here. In terms of alopecia, everybody's been talking about alopecia, of course, because of Jada Pinkett Smith. She even, I heard somebody say, oh, she even said Tupac had alopecia. I don't know. But one of the questions that was posed from our crew, You Don't Like My Music, he asked, why does alopecia disproportionately affect Black women? I'll bet it's connected to hair products. Doc, have you heard anything about that, Faye? Is there any connection to alopecia to these hair products?
Well, the fact of the matter is people develop alopecia for a number of different reasons, and there are different types of alopecia. So first of all, it's a very vast disorder on a wide spectrum. So that's number one. Damage to the scalp and the hair follicles is a big component of this, but people develop it for other more genetic issues, stress, and other medical issues going on within your body that ends up presenting itself on your scalp.
So hair products may not be a factor in that condition.
That's true. Yeah, there are other reasons why people develop alopecia, without a doubt.
Absolutely. Faye, what's your take on now we may be looking at a whole new line of hair and skin conditions, right? As a result of the formaldehyde in these products and some of the other harmful chemicals, right?
And certainly the hairstyles themselves, and that was going to be my comment with alopecia. One of the types is traction alopecia, which can happen from two-type braiding. And generally that's used with different braiding methods that include sew-ins and stuff like that. But to your point about will we see a new breed of hair issues, I actually think, aside from relaxer use, which again, isn't as prevalent today, you look at what's prevalent today with a lot of the hair enhancements that women are using, a lot of the styles that really focus on the hairline, which is extremely delicate, and all the gels and things that may be clogging follicles, and, covering your hair and not allowing your scalp to breathe, like we like to say, that in and of itself can lead to conditions. So again, I believe, it needs to go back to why do we feel that we need to take permanent or extreme measures to permanently alter our look in ourselves. All
right, hold on. Let me stop you there, Faye. Hold on, my sister. Hold on. Sorry. That's a big question. You can't just run. You can't gloss over that.
I know. I'm sorry. That's
a huge question. That's a whole nother hour of conversation. Look, I got to take a quick pause, but no, I think that's a great question for us to even ask, because I think that now, given where we are in this country, given the simple fact that we are becoming, I think Black America is much more conscious than a lot of people would give us credit for, right? And a lot of us would give ourselves credit for. We are much more conscious. Even though we may not always agree on certain things, it doesn't mean that our consciousness doesn't exist. So I think that we're in a very, very new and different place, because so many of us are like pushing back on old traditions. And I think, to your point, standards of beauty. I think many of us are pushing back on how we're supposed to express ourselves and live our lives, whether it's talking about hair, whether it's talking about our relationships, whether it's talking about self-expression. I think that we're all kind of in this transitory space within ourselves and our culture. So I think that big question that you pose is at the heart of this. Like, who are we doing this for? Why are we doing these things to ourselves? At what cost? I think this is getting to the heart of the matter, which is we're trying to find ourselves after 400 plus years of chattel slavery, after all of this systemic issues. I think Black men and Black women in this country, we are just literally like, you know what? Enough is enough. I am me, and y'all gonna get all this me. Like, y'all gonna get all of this me. So we're gonna have that conversation on the other side with some final remarks. Folks, stay with us. You're tuned into The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
When you talk about Blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in Black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible.
Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. We have been checking in with our sister and Dr. Bridget, MD, for this week's Reclaiming Your Wellness. And she brought a dope guest with her today, Miss Faye Harris, to talk about these hair care products and the impact that they are making on not Black women, but our culture in general. Faye, you brought up an excellent question, which is a major question as to why we are spending so much money. When you're talking about the amount of money, and I know, Doc, you've heard this as well, that the spending power, they always put that, oh, your power, your consumer power for Black folks is well over $1 trillion, but that we spend a lot of that money on things like hair care and beauty products. I'm speaking of for Black men, for Black women specifically. And the question that you're posing of why do we spend so much money, spend so much time, put in so much effort? And I think that it's something that's been driven in us as Black folks in this country. We are constantly trying to make ourselves acceptable.
Mm-hmm. No, 100%. And I will tell you, well, as you were talking, my thought was it's to become more digestible, more, right? And so that we were able to move into the places that we can be seen, maybe respected, and not seen, and that we're giving them the okay that we have done some level of assimilation. Mm-hmm. That makes them comfortable, right? And we have been taught that generationally for so long.
Come on, Doc. Come on.
That we don't know any other way. You know, I told someone today that not only is fear the biggest way to control people, right? But fear is what keeps us in our place. And our fear of not being accepted and seen and elevating will often hold us back. And, you know, I feel like we're in a different place now than we definitely were in the 80s and, you know, early 90s. And I feel like it's a progression and that we're, as you said, becoming more conscious, becoming more aware of our worth and who we are and who we can be. But when you have a people that have been taught this for so many years, hundreds of years, it is not undone with, you know, just a good conversation or advancement in medicine or advancement in our culture. It is fear is what holds people back. And little by little, I hope we're getting there.
And I think that's an excellent point. And I think, Faye, it also is Black women are tapping into their inner beauty more than any other, I think more than any other group of people, any other demographic, right? Because for so long, Black women have been told that you're not beautiful because of our experience in chattel slavery. And I know some people might be watching this and they'd be like, why are you always bringing that time period up? Like, it's so ingrained in our DNA and in our culture. Like, you cannot talk about any systemic, long-standing Black issue if you don't include what has happened to us when we were considered property.
Like, and it wasn't that long ago.
And it wasn't that long ago, right? That's an excellent point. Excellent point. It wasn't that long ago. Like we didn't have, like, you know, this country. We're coming up on the 250 years of America in 2026, and you know we're just still getting out of this thinking. The standards of beauty, how we see ourselves, the value that we place on ourselves. Like, I don't know about anybody else, but I know for me as a Black man in this country, I have to wake up every day and make a conscious effort to reaffirm my identity, my humanity, my Blackness every day.
Every day. Yeah. And, you know, along that point, I do think what does make the Black experience unique is that no one does it like us. And again, this industry started because when there is no way, we make a way. You know, back when there were no products, I'm talking about not even combs or accessories for Black hair. The things that our ancestors did to care for themselves, to present themselves in a regal way in the most inhumane circumstances is what really gives me hope. And as we have this conversation about the future of textured hair and where this all can go, I'm really encouraged that it's going to cause a lot of women and men to look back to actually what worked in the past. You know, this Mother Earth, I feel as a people, we're very connected to nature and the earth. We have kitchen ingredients, we have natural herbs, we have things that we can do that meet all of our beauty needs that actually do work. The issue is convenience. The issue is our lifestyle, and who wants to spend time researching that and putting it together. So that's why we go to buy a bottle off the shelf. And then that's why companies go and put these things in it so that it can be shelf stable. I mean, there's a lot on both sides. And that's why I do want to really be sensitive to that. Not just because I grew up in corporate, but because at the end of the day, business is there to meet a demand. Successful businesses offer solutions. And if you can offer the best solution, people will buy. And oftentimes as consumers, we buy because it works and we don't necessarily do the due diligence. So as I talked to Dr. Bridget, and we were talking about her whole line of business and everything she does, I love the holistic approach. We have to really think about what we're putting in our minds, on our body, in terms of everything, and just make sure and do our due diligence that it's as clean as possible. And then if you can't find it, create it, because that's how we've always advanced in this country. We make a way where there is no way. And
if you're talking about creating it, what you've done, Faye, as far as providing a healthy hair solution for protective hair styles. And so, and I just want to bring it full circle that after your time in realizing, hey, maybe this relaxer, me being in this space and what you learned had a great effect on you, you then decided to create a product that helped keep the scalp and hair healthy when you're wearing a protective style. And that's the Out of Sight Hair that product that you created.
Absolutely. My 3-in-1 scalp serum, which, I'm not just a creator of, I'm also a consumer. I created it really in my kitchen with ingredients that I sourced to really meet that need. It soothes, moisturizes, and purifies. And when you wear protective styles, because of scalp tension, you need the menthol to really help soothe. And as we talked about, Dr. Bridget, bring down inflammation. You need to keep your scalp environment clean of impurities. So there's great things like rosemary, peppermint oil, biotin, castor oil, all of the things that are time-tested ingredients that we know works. And I didn't need a study because, these are things that, my mom and my grandmom used when there wasn't a whole aisle at CVS. So that's the whole premise of Out of Sight Enterprises, to create rituals and regimens that really support what we do when no one's looking, to present our best self to the world.
Let me ask you this, Faye, because this is fantastic. First, do you have the website, or do you have a space that people can go and check out the products that you are offering for Out of Sight?
Sure. www.outofsighthair, and of course for the culture it's OUTTASIGHT.com. The Out of Sight Hair, HAIR.com. So again, that's www.outofsighthair.com, outofsighthair.com.
And I'm going to have the team pull up the website so folks can get a visual, get their eyes on this site, because I feel like this is a much larger conversation. It's an ongoing conversation, and it's an important cultural conversation. I know that the crew definitely appreciated having you on. There you are, folks. Out of Sight, right there. Instant scalp cooling and care for protective styles. This is the brand under our sister right here, B. Faye Harris, who is a beauty industry veteran and insider. She said enough is enough. She finally got to that place and was like, look, this corporate money is all well and good, but I got my integrity that I got to really stand for at the end of the day. And I think there are a number of Black women and Black men in these industries that, maybe it's a quiet, small revolution that has to take place, Faye, where we start walking away and say, you know what, we can't keep doing this anymore. Because our culture depends on this stuff as much as, and like I said, I'll get back to what Dr. Bridget was saying and more, and just looking at what the crew is talking about. We have so much at stake. And I think for a lot of people, we're just tired of our expression, our business, our culture being capitalized, and then it's sold back to us in a much more harmful and destructive way. And that's how this whole thing feels, at least for me, especially now that I have locks, that if I'm putting products, if I'm first buying products, some of these products are so damn expensive, and then you find out some of these products are harmful and expensive, now you just bending me over with no Vaseline. You know what I'm saying? It's like you just you just really taking me for a joke. And then you place this cultural imprint on the products to make it seem like, hey, if you want to be black,
right,
use this product.
All of that. Honest to God.
And it's insulting, and it's harmful, and it does not push our culture in a good, positive space. So I want to kind of get, Doc, what would you say to any one of the sisters that are listening, to any woman that's listening, to any black man that's listening today and is saying, you know what do you want them to take from this conversation?
Well, I definitely do believe that there is a quiet movement. I can't tell you how many educated corporate men and women that I speak to that have walked away for all sorts of different reasons. They're creating their own businesses. I like to think that we're creating our new Black Wall Street. And I encourage you, take the education, but do something good with it and do something good for us. And be mindful that you are beautiful, that we do things differently and we do it better. Be mindful of who you are, and then do the things that are good for you and your health. Plant medicine is coming back. Natural medicines are coming back. Let's do what's right for ourselves.
Absolutely. Faye, what's your final remarks? What should we take away from this part of the discussion?
All those sentiments, as well as look for those solutions, because as you talked about, they are out there. The revolution is happening now, and it's not necessarily at a shelf near you, but there's a lot of small Black-owned businesses that are doing the work and providing those goods, and support them. And it may take a Google search, it may take you going that extra step, but it's good for you and good for the culture. So.
Let me ask you this question. I know this is big, and I know we have to add at the end. For you, Faye, how did you reconcile being a part of the industry, working for certain companies, knowing, and then you finding out these things were happening? How did you get to this place within yourself to say, you know what, I'm going to do my part now to be on the other side of history. I'm going to do my part to do right, or to advocate for what's right. How did you get to that place? Just out of curiosity.
Just simply by being there. I walked in bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. I couldn't wait. It was brands I knew, I loved, I used. I'm thinking I'm going to be the face on the box. And then you get to peek behind the curtain and see how the sausage is made. And you're like, wait a minute. And can I really be part of that? And that's it. You do. I came to a point where I had to realize that, I really wanted, I had enough knowledge now to do it on my terms. And I think that's a whole nother conversation, but you have to play the game first, in a sense, to understand the rules, so then you can rewrite them or create your own game. Sometimes people just get into it without knowing anything, but oftentimes that's what happens. You get into it really with the best intentions, right? But with ignorance. And then you learn where the potential opportunities are, where the challenges are, and what's not being done right, so you can go off and do it yourself. And I had to wait until I had the confidence and the right life space to do that. And I'm just happy I arrived.
Oh yeah, we're happy, because sometimes, as you know, and Doc know, and I know, sometimes some folks never get to that place.
Yeah.
Some people never get to that place. So I'm so happy that you arrived as well. Miss Faye Harris, founder of Out of Sight Enterprises. Doc, What an excellent, excellent guest that you brought to us, and we truly, truly appreciate it. And I know, Doc, that you're going to keep your eyes on these lawsuits and the next steps and everything for us, right?
Absolutely. No, we'll stay on top of it. And I'm glad, Faye, thank you for doing this today. And, we might have to bring you back on this as well. So we'll see.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, sisters. Truly appreciate you both. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. I thank y'all so much. Hopefully you enjoyed that part of the conversation, and so many other questions that I definitely believe so many other questions are going to pop up. But so many of you have asked and really commented on some wonderful, wonderful part of this discussion. So I truly appreciate you so, so much. Sharon Brooks, thank you so much. I see the McCollum, thank you so much. Anastasia, thank you so much. So a lot of the sisters in the chat, thank y'all so much, because this affects us. This affects you first, but then it spills over to men and to our larger culture. So there's got to be some change in this whole process. But the one big thing that I'm very, very excited about, the simple fact that so many of you as Black women and as Black folks, we are tired of being sick and tired, and we're taking some things in our own hands. So this is a great place. As much as this is can be seen as a very just a problem, this is also an opportunity for us to look at some new ways that we can express ourselves, some new ways for us to have business, some new ways to redefine what the standard of beauty is in this country. So I thank each and every one of you for joining us for the conversation. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. Our time has been very well spent today. I want to thank Dr. Bridget. I want to thank Ms. Faye Harris. Make sure y'all check her out at Out of Sight Enterprises online and see what type of support you can offer to her as she continues to create a space and a place for natural-based Black-owned businesses and products. So make sure y'all check that out. Stay tuned. Up next at 6 p.m. is Rolling Martin Unfiltered. Make sure y'all go to our website today at blackstarnetwork.com. Download the app for free. Follow us on social media. And, of course, give something. And I want to say a special shout out to Miss Janet Williams, who is another donor for the Bring the Funk fan club at a level 1 rate. So Janet, thank you so much for giving something to help us here on the Black Star Network, empowering this movement. We truly, truly appreciate you. All right, folks, that's going to do it for me. Oh, big question, big thing is, if you missed any of last week's Black Men's Summit, we had 5 days, 5 dope conversations. If you missed any of that, you can go to our website today at blackstarnetwork.com. It is officially now streaming on our website at blackstarnetwork.com. So you can go back and check out the Culture's Black Men's Summit, where we're redefining and celebrating Black manhood for all of those conversations, everything about Black men in faith, Black men in politics, Black men in mass media, Black men in education, and Black men in the family and community. You can check it out again on our website at blackstarnetwork.com. 5 days of conversations, 5 fantastic days of insights and thoughts on the discussion about the state of Black men in various spaces. And most importantly, you got a platform to do it. So, man, oh man, could not thank each and every one of you enough for your support for us here on The Culture for that Black Men's Summit that we had last week. All right, folks, that's going to do it for me. Stay tuned. Up next, Rolling Martin Unfiltered. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we will be back for another exciting edition of The Culture tomorrow. And for the rest of the week, I got some dynamic guests. We're going to have some more dope conversations, and it's still a lot to cover. So make sure y'all tune in this week. But more importantly, stay tuned. Up next is Rolling Martin Unfiltered, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you so much for tuning in to The Culture right here, only here, exclusively here on the Black Star Network. Talk to you soon. Peace.